Oh my goodness, you are such an inspiration. Wow, you really are. You're so strong. Can I pet your service dog? Ugh. 1, 2, 3, let's go! We are artists, parents, teachers, good guys, bad guys, students, leaders. I'm not your inspiration, yeah, I'm fully who I am. Got my own expectations that don't fit into your plans. I'm not your sad story, so I wrote it in this song. Everything you know about disability is wrong. Yeah, everything you know. Yeah, everything you know about disability is wrong.
Hey, listeners, welcome to another episode of Everything You Know About Disability is Wrong.
Today on the show, we are very excited to have our first couple on the show, Shane and Hannah Burcaw.
Shane and Hannah Burcaw are the creators of the wildly popular YouTube channel Squirmy and Grubs, which has over 1.5 million subscribers. Their content focuses on normalizing disability and challenging societal misconceptions about relationships and disability, combining entertainment with advocacy that reaches viewers worldwide.
And we're both big fans of your channel, so we're very excited to have you here. So welcome.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
Thank you.
we're really excited to be here, and appreciate you guys for being fans of the channel.
Yeah, awesome.
We are
our
major
first-
fans.
Yes. Our first
Let's-
question.
Wait,
is-
Erin, before we do questions, we should do audio descriptions.
Oh my god, every time.
Every
forget.
time. It's fine. Don't worry. I have it
It's
in our
fine.
notes for this reason.
Awesome.
Let's do some audio descriptions.
Okay,
I can
cool.
You want to start?
All right, sure. Hi, I'm Erin. I'm very forgetful. I have red hair, blue eyes, and I'm wearing a huge sweater that I can't move in. And I'm sitting in my chair in my room. Now I'll pass it to Lily.
This is Lily speaking. I am a mixed race, half Indian, half white person with some blonde highlights in my short brown hair. I have green eyes, and you can kind of see behind me there are some blurry Jonas Brothers towels hanging on the wall because that is how I decorate my room of choice. And throughout the episode, I'll probably fidget with my necklace like I always do. And I will pass it to Shane and Hannah if you could just give us a little audio description.
Yeah.
Should I go? Sure. So I'm Hannah. I am a white woman with medium length light brown hair. My hair's been growing, so normally I say short, but I feel like I'm at medium length now,
Yes.
past my shoulders. And I'm wearing a brown plaidish V-neck sweater, and I'm sitting next to Shane.
Yes, I am Shane. I am a white man with brown short hair. It's kind of doing this weird little poofy thing in the front right now that we tried to tame before we got on, but it didn't really tame.
Yeah.
I have circular wire rimmed glasses, and I'm wearing a blue or maybe black shirt.
Blue.
It's a blue shirt, and behind us you can see a nondescript white room. It's not a very stunning backdrop, but we're at our house.
Yeah.
Incredible. Thank you. I really like when we have like supportive audio descriptions going on where we're all kind of like nodding along like, yeah, you're right. That is your hairline. Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Supportive room. All right, Erin, now let's dive into questions.
Awesome. So, the name of our show is Everything You Know About Disability is Wrong. And what do people get wrong about you?
Ooh,
It's a good question.
this is a good question. And I'll be honest, this morning, about a half hour ago, we both remembered, we were told that we would be asked this, and we didn't just think of a good answer. I did for me, and I'm afraid that Hannah and I might have very similar answers.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to say that many people assume that my life has inherently less value or worth because I have a disability compared to a non-disabled person. And this idea manifests in a variety of ways. The way that we see it most often is in comments left on our various social media that say things like, our world would be better off without Shane
Well,
draining, resources, or that Hannah would be better off with a non-disabled partner because there's nothing that Shane has to give. I'm starting this episode on just the most lovely, uplifting note, but yeah, I wish that people saw me and others with disability as having the same level of, worth and value as any other non-disabled person.
Yeah, that was indeed my almost verbatim answer. So same. Yeah, I mean, thinking to like the comments that we get, I feel like people get wrong just the nature of our relationship, the worth that Shane has as a person and a partner, just all the stuff that you already said. Um, and it's like shocking how many people get that wrong. So yeah.
yeah, and shocking how many people feel so emboldened to be so loud and so wrong. Like
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
behind a computer screen, I think is always shocking, especially just the number of people your content reaches.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think when we say, like, "Oh, we get mean comments online," people maybe, think that we mean, like, 1 or 2 here and there every other week or something, but it's a daily occurrence that we see dozens
Oh,
of people being awful about us and our relationship and our disability, all just centered on the fact that Hannah is not disabled and I'm disabled.
mhm.
So it's
And these people have never like, we meet a lot of people out in the real world, like, physically that watch our channel, and people come up to us all the time and, say that they love what we're doing, whatever, but we have never, in 8 years of doing this or however long it's been, have met a person who has left a negative comment. They've never come up to us and been like, "There you are, the fake couple." Like, no one has ever said anything rude, and I know statistically that we have passed them, and they have
yeah,
seen us in public, and it's just funny that no one like, it's an online thing. No
yeah,
one would ever come up to us in person and be like, "You're a fake couple,"
yeah.
but
It,
they say it online.
it's a lot. Sorry, I don't mean to really go into this too deeply, but um, we had whenever a post goes viral, it reaches new people that are not familiar with us, and that's when the comments really go downhill. And the one that stands out to me the most was there was a comment on a fun little video we did that referred to me as a vegetable.
ugh,
The comment referred to you as a
The
vegetable,
comment,
not a
I'm telling you.
tomato.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very important distinction. Yeah.
That doesn't sound right.
The comment referred to me as a vegetable. And as of today, it has well over 100,000 upvotes.
ugh.
100,000 people. That is a large city. So, like, that's a crazy
Yeah.
number of people. So yeah, it's kind of mind-boggling when you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a horrifying number, especially because you all have built like a wonderfully supportive, amazing community. Having collaborated on content with you with Easter seals, it's like the comments are so on either side. It's either
Yeah.
like really, really supportive or not at all. And it shows like a wider misunderstanding of just disability in general and even the nature of like disability will impact you in your life at some point no matter what. And I'm engaged right now doing wedding planning stuff and I think so much about the like how many of y'all are leaving these comments on videos like this after standing up and being like, "In sickness and in health, I choose you." And then you're
Yeah.
on this comment like, "Why are you in this relationship?" It's like, wait, so what are you gonna do when disability inevitably comes? Because if you're lucky to live long enough, it will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
And I
Just
have a hard time not thinking about that every time I read a, horrible comment. I'm just a little bit like, just wait. Just wait. Yeah.
Maybe a
yeah, it's
change or two.
yeah, I don't wanna use it as like a threat, but there is like a It will come.
They're gonna
Just
have
you
to
wait.
someday they're gonna have to reckon with the way that they feel about disability, and,
Yeah.
it would be better if they could just adopt a more positive mindset from the beginning, like so many other people are able to do. It's not a difficult thing, so, yeah.
That's such a good point, and actually something I've noticed being, like, close to 30, I my non-disabled friends have such a harder time with aging and, like, it's such a scary thing for them, and then me and my other disabled friends are like, whatevs." Like, this is life, this is how bodies work. Um, I have a question. You brought up virality and how that kind of brings like new people to you. That was kind of y'all's origin story. As you started making content, you had an interview that went very viral and brought hundreds of thousands of people to your page. So you were pretty quickly thrust into like disability advocacy on a community level. And I'm wondering what are some early things that you learned about the difference between like self and family advocacy versus being like a disability advocate and, what you learned, like, kind of being put into that position very quickly. Well, because so much of, like, disability advocacy in general comes from this, like, "Well, I have to." Like, I'm advocating for myself, I have to, but you were very quickly put into a public position and made, like, kind of the faces of this, and early like, you guys started in 2018, I think, and I think in
Yeah.
2020, we had, like, a lot of new faces of, like, disability advocacy online because we was
Yeah.
everyone was making content, but just kinda wondering what that ascension was like and what if there were any, like, changes you had to make in
Yeah.
your content.
Mhm.
I mean, I just start if you
Yeah, you can start.
when we started our channel, our minds were not focused on advocacy in any way. We just at the way that we live our life, we are, you know, pro disability, and disability rights and stuff. But our channel wasn't about that. It was about our, you know, budding relationship and our travels and just being silly young people that we were at the time. And then when we did that interview and all these people were suddenly watching our page, it felt like an opportunity to make more important messages or to share more important messages with the world. We knew that what we were doing prior to that was fun and it was a nice passion that we had for making content and being funny, but there was an opportunity to do something more like important that would have an impact on the world. And that was what made it. We talked a lot about that in the weeks that followed all these people coming to our channel was like, should we try harder to make our channel like to give our channel more of a purpose in terms of disability advocacy? And we decided that we would, knowing, you know, or not knowing what that would look like. Um, and then it was just like from there forward, kept an eye out for things that happen to us, negative things that happen to us in terms of ableism and accessibility, and putting that into our content in a way that was like, hey, world, was it this stuff that we face? Isn't that annoying? Um, and it turned out that people really responded to that. And many people had no idea the kinds of ableism and inaccessibility that disabled people experience. Do you have anything to say?
Well, yeah, I think at the beginning we definitely approached the advocacy part as like at least I did. I remember having conversations about this. Like when we first met, I was introduced to like ableism, disability advocacy, like every all of that entire world. And when we started our channel and then people started watching it and there were people had questions, like we thought of our channel as a way for people to get the information that I had gotten through knowing you, you know? So we'd be like, we're out and about and like, look, this coffee shop has a step, and like that had happened to me 2 years earlier when I started dating you. And then I went to my favorite coffee shop and I was like, oh no, there's a step. So like we just thought of it as a way to give people the experience with disability that I had gotten.
Yeah.
And then also when we started getting more into like heavier topics, not just like there's a step at our coffee shop, but like, systemic issues that we would bring up, I think we knew what our audience was there for, which was originally like just fun vlogs. And so we've always kept that because like that's what they signed up for, that's what they like. And that's where we have like a connection with our audience. So if we had just pivoted fully to like every video is a different horrible thing that's happening in the world, no one would watch the videos. Like everyone would be like, why this sounds awful? Like, why am I watching this? So I think we also were very mindful to like mix in advocacy with the humor and like the normal stuff that just kept people watching.
I think that, yeah, it's a really good point. Was a lot of the early work was figuring out how to make the advocacy approachable and fun.
Yeah.
So
that people will care.
like how to make the medicine go down
Yeah.
with a spoonful of sugar. And our case was by being funny about it. Like we would
Totally.
make videos about these horrible like airline experiences with flying that were in the moment dehumanizing and painful and terrible. But if we could relate that to the audience in a funny and, safe way, people would respond and they would watch the video and get that experience rather than if we just made a video that was like, here are the 6 ways that you can help support airline accessibility. That's not going to get people to watch.
Yeah. I mean, the only people that would watch that are people that already care about accessibility. So we were definitely trying to bring in new people to caring about all these issues that we already cared about.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah.
I have a YouTube channel, and not big, but do you ever feel, because I do, pressure to talk about disability, even though like you don't want to, or because like the videos I talk about, how I play video games, how I make it accessible, those perform way better than any other content that I do.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, because I sometimes feel like I gotta make another video about something, disability, when really my channel is focused on like reading and books. So like I'm just wondering, like how do you handle that pressure that you might feel?
That's a great question.
Yep.
So yeah, I think we do feel that pressure, the same pressure that you described. We have a joke of that if we can just get a clip of Hannah lifting me out of my chair, the video will instantly do better.
Yeah.
And it's just sadly true. Obviously we don't do that in every video, but I think there is a difficulty for us in showing non-disability focused parts of our life. Like if we made a video tomorrow about Hannah's passion for sewing, or she doesn't have a passion.
I was gonna say you
for
couldn't have
sewing.
picked something I actually care about.
I was thinking of a random hobby.
Yeah.
You used to do knitting.
I did do.
That's what I was thinking.
Yes.
Knitting.
Yeah.
No,
that wouldn't do well.
that wouldn't. Our audience would be like, "What?" And if your audience knows what, the algorithm knows what, and then no one sees it.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's different. It's a little different for us, I think, on YouTube because we did start, like, we talked about Shane's disability, but it wasn't like, we also talked about a lot of other stuff. But I feel like it really shows up on short form content. Like there will be a couples trend, and we cannot do a couples trend without Shane's disability being almost the only thing people comment about. Like aside from people that already watch our content, they'll think it's cute or funny. But like we cannot do a normal, like the outfit swap.
Yep,
Like
yep.
guess whose outfit is whose. Like every that went viral, whatever. every comment is about our relationship. Not a single comment. Like, there are hundreds of this trend out there, and it
Yeah.
only turns into being about your disability.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a difficulty in disabled creators creating anything aside from disability content,
That's
which is why
independent.
we just like, we got to just keep trying.
Another point in that is that when we did the outfit swap, we weren't making content about my disability.
No, it was just the trend.
We were just doing the trend. It's almost like how the audience reacts to that content.
Yeah.
And if we make a video about taking our dog for a walk, there's no disability in there, but the audience will be like, wait a minute, they're a couple? Like, and again, I had to mention this, but like, there are so many people who watch our content, understand our relationship, and would comment like, "What a lovely day to walk your dog."
Yeah.
We're talking more about the people that are new to seeing our content.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's that added layer of like the engagement machine wants engagement. And so like on top of balancing the like spoonful of sugar advocacy of it all, there's also the layer of like what level of like using my lived experience feels comfortable versus exploitative when I know we had Chelsea Bear on the show and we had a good conversation about this because she had similar things. She was like, if I make the thumbnail specifically like while I'm walking, people I'll get more views. And it's like a hard thing to manage when content creation is your full-time job of that like well, I
Yeah.
want to get views because non-disabled people find the thing that brings them views and
Yeah.
do it over and over again, but it's a hard thing to balance. So I think that um that's an added layer people might not know you're balancing while you're making content. Another kind of balance question before we move on from content is so Erin and I work in marketing for Easter Seals, and one of the things that we like lament about in making content is that we want to get into like the nuanced parts of disability, the things that people don't talk about, but then we're constantly surprised by like market research that a lot of people still are so shocked to learn that more than 1 in 4 people have a disability in the US. Like people are still really shocked by the basics.
Mhm.
So this is kind of a question just for us as marketers and people who make content for a nonprofit. Like, how do you balance making content for the general public who may be like entering the world of disability versus that core target audience of people who want to move past that disability 101?
I think that something that frustrates me is our societal shift away from long form anything to just like the TikTokification of
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because that, really complicates that problem even more. It's hard to get into the nuance when you have, 15 seconds to do
Right.
it.
Especially because you started all of this by writing, and you would write like very long things about a specific topic. So
That's what I was getting to.
yeah.
Is like I have I'm still very resistant to the short form of it all. And, throughout the recent years, I will go on these like phases where I write long form about disability on, Facebook or a blog or something. And that feels so good to me as an outlet to get into the more nuanced stuff. Um, but beyond that, I don't know. And long from YouTube videos, like I think that people are moving away from that, but we've kind of resisted that and continue to post 20-minute videos whenever we can. Um, hoping that if we can get them interested in the beginning with more broad kind of stuff, then maybe we can get into the nuance later in the video.
But there's also like if we do post a video that's about something that is not like the 1 in 4 people are Americans are disabled type thing, that is a little bit more something that people aren't comfortable with already. Like
Mhm.
our audience is a very mixed group of people who are just as like in the disability community as us, like 100% will take what we're saying and like give us things back that we haven't heard yet. Like very, very involved. And then there's a lot of people who are still surprised by the 1 in 4. So like we'll get comments on things that are just like pushback from mostly non-disabled people that are like, this doesn't sound right to me. Like, a lot of those comments. And I feel like over the years that has pushed us away a little bit from
Yeah.
going beyond like the basics, because it's so frustrating to like put stuff out there and then receive it's things back from people that like have no idea what they're talking about.
For just like a little bit of inside baseball here, but we're working on a video idea right now about the role of a caregiver and personal autonomy for
Mm.
the one receiving care, because it's something that we get quite a lot. People telling Hannah, like, oh, you need to put a tote on him. Or most recently, I posted about my sobriety journey, and there were comments about, to Hannah, you should have just not given him beer. Well, yeah. And I know that when we make this video, which is a nuanced topic, there's gonna be a lot of people that just don't get it.
Mhm.
That are gonna be like, no, you are his caregiver. It is your responsibility to, take care of him. So, that's a nuanced thing that it's gonna take a long video to really explain to them why that is not the case.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
that'll be fun.
Nuance takes time, and we all need to get back to reading and consuming long form stuff and delete all of the short form in the world. That's my take.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking about when prepping for this interview, I was like, man, to go from like writing books to long form YouTube to the TikTokification, it makes sense that you'd be frustrated, Shane. Like, it's just you have to get things in so quickly now. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely a challenge of the online world. But I think that that's like the plus to really like growing a real community is those people who will be like, okay, I like their short form stuff, so I'm going to take the time to read the book
Yeah.
because I want to get that.
Yeah. Very grateful for all those people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of content, you've written a few books, and one with Hannah. And can you tell us about like what prompted you to write those books and what they're about?
Yes. So the first book I wrote, Laughing at My Nightmare, came from the blog that I had been writing, which, that kind of kicked off everything that ever happened in my life. I started writing a blog just for the fun of it, telling funny stories about my life, and it did better than I imagined. And that led to that book deal, which was like a introduction to my life and my childhood and things like that, living with a disability. And then I wrote a second memoir, Strangers Assume My Girlfriend Is My Nurse, mainly because the first book performed well, and the publisher was like, hey, do you want to, write an updated book with the later years of your life? So I did that. I wrote a children's book along the way because there's back then there was not a whole lot of children's material out there about disability, and obviously kids are very curious about disability, and the way that they learn about it can have a big impact on how they grow up thinking about it. So I did that. And then Heather, do you want to talk about our book project?
Yes. So our book project was us interviewing a bunch of other couples where one or both of them had a disability, and then chapters about our relationship. That I think I was in Strangers Assume a little bit, like meeting and then moving in, but then this book picked up after that. So, yeah, it was really fun writing it together. It was my first time writing a book, and yeah, it was fun.
Like the purpose of that book was to show the kind of beautiful variety of relationships that involve disability. A very common sentiment on our social media is people assuming that relationships like ours must be extremely rare because they've never seen one like it before. And we know from being in the disability community that that's not the case. And so we wanted to show that, look, we're not the only ones doing this. And yeah, that's kind of where that book came from.
Yeah.
But yeah, we love writing, and I'm working on my first fiction novel right now, so I'm very excited about that. Um, Excited is a strong word. Right now I'm in the stress phase of it, but I'm excited for it to be done.
This podcast is brought to you by Easter Seals. Easter Seals empowers people to live independent, full lives, and we've been doing it for over 100 years. We're in communities nationwide, providing support at every age and stage of life. Whether you need employment services, mental health support, or want to find a welcoming community, we've got you covered. Visit EasterSeals.com to learn more.
Well, I'm excited for it. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Speaking of a couple of things that have been brought up, but you did a collaboration for Easter Seals recently with your besties, Cole and Charisma, which was really cool. I would love to know how the four of you became friends, like a quick version of that, and then also just like you've talked about it a little bit that people don't necessarily understand how caregiving and a relationship can go together so well. So how does that understanding of disability and caregiving deepen your friendships with the many interabled relationships you have in your life? Because it's, as you said, not rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the story of how we met and became friends, the full story is in our latest book, Interabled,
Yes, it is.
with some spicy details about the beginning of our friendship. Um, but without spoiling that, uh, we met because we were both starting YouTube channels around the same time.
It was like a month apart we started them, yeah.
And we obviously saw each other on YouTube, and we were like, "Oh, like they're doing it like us," and vice versa. Do you remember? So I'm terrible about timelines.
I was surprised
This
you
is-
launched into this.
I know this is not my best
I
show.
was like, I want to see
So,
how it
Ed,
goes.
you should explain that.
No, so I think the first time we ever like actually spoke was a FaceTime, and it was before we met in person. It was
See, I didn't know that.
It was early in our YouTube careers, and yeah, it was we're just like, "Oh, look at it's just us out there, like, nice to meet you guys." And then they ended up coming to Shane's nonprofit's 5K in Pennsylvania. They drove up from Virginia, so we met them in person there the first time. Um, and there's details in the book, but it was like it was fine. And then we didn't really see them for 3 years after that because they lived in Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, they lived in Virginia. We lived in Minnesota, and we just like never saw them again.
Yeah, we kind of just thought we weren't going to be friends.
Yeah.
It just sort of seemed like it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. So we just never saw them, and then we both ended up in LA at the same time. They moved out there, and I think we were spending the winter there in like an Airbnb, and so we got dinner with them. And this was I think 2021, like it was 3 years after. Yeah, 2021 probably. Uh and got dinner with them, and it went well. Like we really got along. It was great. Then they invited us over to their apartment after, which they had said later, well, like they were gonna if it went well, but they wanted to not bring that up in case it didn't go well. So we ended up going to their apartment. We hung out,
Yeah.
and we became close pretty quickly as we were in LA at the same time. And then we at one night like had a discussion about how we hadn't really gotten along at first, and like now we were going to be best friends. And
Yeah, there's a big moment. I mean, you'll save that for the book, but
yeah,
yeah.
we discussed the awkwardness of the early years and
Yes.
got that out of the way. And then for the next 3 years, we were in LA together. We did IVF at the same time. We have the same careers. We have caregiving in our relationships, like you said. So we just had so much in common, like an uncanny amount in common. And it's just been really nice to have people that we relate to on like so many different levels.
Yeah, I think like we said in our collaboration with Easter Seals is like the disability connection and the caregiving connection
Mm-hmm.
that we have with them is such a strong part of our relationship.
Yeah.
Like, it was incredible to be able to talk for hours with them about films that no one that we've ever met have just immediately understood. They've experienced the same things, and we can relate in such a deep way about it. Um, I've learned so much from Cole about disability. I think he would say the same, and Hannah and Charisma would say the same. And it's also cool that like when we're hanging out, the caregiving and disability stuff doesn't feel like awkward in the way it does when you're hanging out with non-disabled people. For instance, if we're at dinner with a non-disabled couple and I need to use the bathroom, like it takes me a little bit longer than typical. And so like when I leave to go to the bathroom with Hannah, we wonder like are they out there wondering like why does this take him a long time? It's just like, a little layer of like discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
But with them, we know that they know, why it's taking longer, and it doesn't add any discomfort in that way.
Yeah.
So it's a big bonus that we can relate about disability.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Because I know, like, if I'm around other disabled people, even if they don't have the same disability, I am very much more comfortable.
Yeah.
And I say that as somebody who's very socially awkward and introverted. That it's like a really good comfort. Like when Lily comes to visit, I don't feel like I have to. Well, I don't hide myself, but I feel like I can be fully who I am without feeling awkward.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's
Absolutely.
really nice to have that friendship.
Yeah, and there's like it's so nice to not have to navigate the like, am I saying too much right now? Like, is it what do they need to know? Like, I don't have to navigate that at all with my disabled friends. It's just like, oh, we get it.
Yeah.
And also like, um, it's so nice to have friends where you know that there's not going to just be like little comments made that make it feel like, oh, our relationship is like different. Like, because Erin and I are both in long-term relationships as well, which I think does position this interview as a fun place to have like a conversation about
Yeah.
caregiving and vulnerability and love and all of that. And I think that like with my fiance as my primary caretaker, one of the things is like I have a really hard time feeding myself like ever. And he takes care of that entirely. And sometimes when I hang out with like other non-disabled couples, they'll make comments almost being like, man, like I wish my fiance did that for me or whatever. And it's like, oh well, like I'll die. Like I need like like it's like I need that. Like it's not like a and just little comments that I can say that to the three of you and be like, oh well, I'll die if I don't. And it's like that you get it. Like it's
Yeah.
there's just that layer, and that's even this podcast. It's nice to have a space that's like you can laugh about it. And
Well,
actually, one of my favorite chapters of your guys' latest book, there's one that starts with a disclaimer of like, if you read this, you might think they don't like each other, but they are madly in love. This
yeah.
is just like their humor. I wrote down the name of it somewhere. It's Robin and Jay's chapter.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you're basically saying that like humor is the foundation of their relationship. And I think that that comes up in a lot of relationships that have disability woven within the relationship, just because there is that like realness and vulnerability that's just there at the surface. So I'm wondering, do you two have that kind of like banter relationship? And what are some of your like personal love languages in your relationship?
I think Robin and Jay took the humor to a new level.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, humor is like huge in our relationship.
Yeah, we definitely worry when we're hanging out with like newer friends
Mm-hmm.
that that they'll think that Hannah and I don't like each other, because like our main form of kind of communication is sarcasm and, bantering with one another. Uh, what do you want to talk about? Love languages? I don't know what my love language is. I've tried so hard to figure out what my love language is. I don't know what my love language is.
You like physical touch. I
Yes.
think you like that. I think
I
you.
like them all though.
I know.
Is that an all? Maybe an
I
all.
know.
No, I think that's totally fair because, and I also think that like in disabled relationships, we tend to like, well, screw the five that are like, you have to. It's like my love language is like a book that someone finds for me. And that's when I know they like know me very well. Things like that. Do you have any like, what's your, I know this will make them smile?
I mean, if it's an object, it's a sauce or a dip for Shane. Like if I stumble across like a sauce or dip that he will love, I've hit the jackpot.
Yeah. For Hannah, it's also food. It's a surprise sweet treat of some kind. I know that if I have cookies delivered or something like that, it's gonna brighten Hannah's mood. Um, but in terms of just like daily life, Hannah and I have like this routine that is pretty sacred to us of like we either make our dinner or order dinner. We have dinner together and then we kind of watch our shows or a movie in our in a cozy room, and we kind of just like we do that every night together. We really look forward to our nightly TV movie watching time. We fill the couch with blankets and pillows and put our fireplace on and have our nightly snack.
It's very, very ritualistic, yeah.
And to the point where like when we have other stuff to do, like social things, or
We went to a play last week.
it was just great.
It was a
like
great show.
great show. But while we were there, we were like, oh, I wish we were watching our show right now.
I was like, man, I wish we were on our couch. Even though
So,
the show was great.
and having that, Rich, I think part of this, which is something, is that we are together all day long. Like we work together, and then the caregiving of it all. Like we are together most of the day, every day.
Yeah.
And yeah, by 6 o'clock, we are ready and excited for our night together.
Which feels very different from our day together. Like,
Yeah.
we're excited about it.
And we do have separate hobbies that we do on our own, but not at the risk of our nightly TV movie time. And so I don't know. I just feel like we have a kind of relationship that I think others would feel like is almost too much. Like we're together too much. But we prefer that, and we are excited about that, and that
Yeah.
we have the opportunity to do that. We're very grateful for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I think the amount of time you can spend together is like you need that to match up because
Yeah.
like I definitely have my like friends that like their solitude more, but my fiance and I are like the two of you. We're very much like if we have to spend a night apart, we're like, "What? We don't get to hang out." Like I thought we were hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My partner stays here sometimes. We don't live together, but they'll be upstairs and they'll come down and they'll say, "I missed you," and I said, "I just saw you 2 minutes ago."
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that because
Yeah.
that comfort in that relationship is so important, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have moments where Hannah's in another room, and we'll be texting one another.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is sick. When you do.
So true.
So spending so much time together and being, for all intents and purposes, coworkers, how do the two of you like do a relationship check-in? Like, how do you separate like business check-ins from like how's our actual relationship?
All right, I'm just gonna be honest. We're not big like check-in people. I don't like we have check-ins about caregiver burnout and business stuff, but the business stuff is not that's just always there. Like,
Yeah.
during our movie night every night, we might pause and be like, I thought of an idea for a video. Or like, I thought how we can respond to that one email that we've been waiting to respond to.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, that feels very intertwined.
that's
Like,
sort of always
really
there.
separate. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, but I think that like in the relationship sense, um, we are very mindful of planning fun outings. I know I just said like we cherish our nightly movie night, but like we love going out to a fun dinner or going out to a show. Um, so we'll do that, once or twice a month, as a way to just like have a little bit of variety
Mhm.
in our relationship.
Like, and that stuff is not filmed, like that's just
Yes.
stuff that's separate from,
Yeah.
like, we wouldn't vlog that basically. Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, this sounds maybe weird, but like the number of, or it's seldom that we have problems in our relationship. Which again, very grateful for. Can you knock on the wooden desk?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Um, but like it just doesn't. We don't feel like there's things that we need to like check in with one another about. Like, hey, I'm feeling upset about this or that.
Yeah, like if
Yeah.
we have arguments, it's about a very specific thing. Like we don't have any long-term issues that we're like checking in about, I feel like.
Yeah. And we just, again, we're together all day, so we talk about it in the moment. Like, if I'm annoying Hannah, she tells me, and then I correct what I'm doing, or we discuss it. And then it's over. So, yeah, I guess that is more truthful. Is that the check-ins are just, like, happening throughout life, and
Mhm.
we don't really say, like, all right, tonight is our relationship conversation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I so appreciate your honesty on that because I'm very much the same way. And every time I see like content about like have a weekly check-in where you do this, I will laugh with my fiance, like, are we not doing this right? Like, are we supposed to be having like quarterly reviews? Like, what? Because we just don't do that. But I think there is a layer of like, that's one of those things that is like a benefit of the disability connection in a relationship is like, you know, we're he's already accommodating me so often that I'm regularly being like, "Well, I can't do that." Like, or that doesn't work for me, or he's like saying that in the caregiver burnout thing. I think that's like the one area that will have that, and that does have to happen in real time kind of. It has to have
Yeah.
these like, "Oh, like I'm being like my partner will be like, I'm being snippy right now. I don't have a social fuse right now." And or things like that. And it does happen. It's like the vulnerability and the intimacy that having caregiving brings to a
Yeah.
relationship, I feel like eliminates the need for like, where's your hidden resentment? Because it's just like
Yeah.
it's not. Also, my fiance and I will joke about the like common enemy of ableism and the way it brings
Eh,
us together. like
yeah.
we can't battle each other. We got a common enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you have a caregiver situation, you do have to work it out in real time.
Yeah.
Because my partner and I have been together for over 10 years, and we've never had a fight. And so I had to Google, is it okay if you've been together and never had a fight? And I found out that could mean you're conflict avoidant.
Mhm.
And they were like, no, we're just really chill.
Yeah.
We have discussions, not fights.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can count the number of times on one hand that we've had like a fight, like
Yeah.
where we were like angry.
Mhm.
It was always my fault. Let's just put that
Oh,
out
so
there.
nice.
And yeah, something that we felt is really special, excuse me, trip from a spit. Um, we feel like it's something really special and something that we're grateful for about our relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that deep, like, I think, to be loved is to be, like, deeply known, and disability certainly makes that, like, uh, it's harder to hide, I think.
Yeah,
Like, it's all on the table, and I think that that causes, like, some beautiful depth in friendship and relationships, I
yeah,
think.
Mhm.
absolutely.
Okay, well, I am a resident, like, hopeless romantic. I love love. I love the both two of your relationships, so you have to pardon me for this very cheesy question, but I want to ask it. What would you both tell your younger self about the person they are going to end up with?
Whoa,
Aw, that's so cute.
that's a cute one. Um,
I think that I would tell my younger self that I will never like, you don't get tired of him. That's what I would say. Like, you can be around this person nonstop for 10 years and you will not want to go into a room alone, which, like, I feel like before I met Shane, that was my biggest fear. I was like, I don't tolerate anybody for more than 24 hours. So I'm confused how marriage would ever work for me.
mhm.
And it's just shocking to me that I can be around Shane endlessly and it's like better than being alone.
I thank you. I would tell myself that you're gonna marry someone who is smarter than you by a long shot and funnier than you by a long shot and just like the most caring and attentive and emotionally attuned to you person that you could ever dream of. And back then, I thought I was pretty smart and funny. So it was
Like, nah.
pretty impressive. I think I'd be pretty impressed. Um, and I am today. So
Oh,
yeah.
that's nice.
That was lovely. I loved that so much. I think that that's wonderful, and I think that the two of you are, like, just a great couple for anyone in a, like, early relationship to watch and see, like, even just the way you 2 banter is so, like, authentic, and, you can tell you guys just stay best friends, like, and that's the best is when, like, a relationship that's existed for a long time is like, "Oh, dang, they're still buddies." Like, that's such a good feeling to just, like, be besties. Um,
Unfortunately, according to many people online, it's all fate.
right, right.
So
There's that, yeah.
you have to
Yeah, I
remember
mean,
that. Mhm.
you guys handled the scripting of this episode so well. We had
God,
it written. They don't even like each other. That's sarcasm in my voice. I'm not great with tone. Uh, okay, one final question because I would be remiss not to bring up the fact that Shane, you're the president and founder of your nonprofit organization, Laughing at My Nightmare, which has distributed over $1 million worth of adapted equipment and awarded more than $70,000 in college scholarships to students with neuromuscular disabilities. You also have worked with many nonprofits, including Easter Seals. We love working with you anytime we can work with the two of you. It's just like such a joy. We've wanted you on the show for so long, so this is just so wonderful. And it is about to be nonprofit giving season, and in the world we're experiencing right now, we're seeing how important nonprofits and kind of care related organizations are. So, for anyone who is listening who has maybe never really like thought about nonprofits or giving in that kind of way, what motivates the two of you to do this kind of nonprofit work, and what would you say to some people who are thinking about potentially supporting nonprofits this holiday season rather than maybe getting the newest product online?
yeah. Thank you for prompting that. Yeah, so Laughing at My Nightmare um, is an organization that I founded a long time ago, but um, we provide adaptive and medical equipment to people living with disabilities. And I think we're seeing in our world the scaling back or erasure of support systems for disabled people. Um, and it sort of feels like more and more people are feeling emboldened to not care about the well-being of disabled people. And is having and will continue to have really horrific effects on the lives and the quality of life for disabled people. So nonprofits in the disability community are more important than ever. Um, and I would encourage people to look into nonprofits that are doing like on the ground direct action. Laughing at my nightmare for resistance. When you donate to us, that money goes directly to the items that are then given to people that apply for them. So that's one of many very worthy organizations out there. Easter Seals obviously being another. But if our government and our society is not going to be there for disabled people, we, as people, need to step up and lend a hand, because we're all in this together, as as much of a cliche as that might be. But yeah, I think the holidays are a great time to, make a donation or volunteer. And obviously, we'd be so grateful if you consider laughing at my nightmare in that. But yeah, thank you again.
Yeah, I think that that's very important right now. And also, if you have young kids, it can be really a great time to teach like some lessons on like what a cool time the holiday season can be and how good it can feel to, support one another and groups that are doing great things, because the helpers exist. People are out there doing great work. And sometimes when life feels a little bit hopeless, that's a great way to infuse some hope, is support the people who are really out there doing the work. So thank you, the two of you, for doing the work and for sharing your lives with literally millions of people. I think that you have together changed a ton of misconceptions about disability. And as a disabled person who has like watched so much of your content for so long, I'm so grateful for the work you guys do. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That means a lot. We really appreciate it.
And this has just been so fun. It's like we've been waiting for this moment. We knew we wanted to have you on the show. This was so fun. I was so nervous, but it was so wonderful.
You were both
No, they were
great.
amazing questions.
Yeah, I loved all the questions. They were
Yeah.
very thoughtful.
Oh,
It
I'm
was
so glad.
so much better than the normal, like, how did you meet? What's your favorite thing about being a YouTuber?
Those are the questions. And then also like when Erin and I were making this show, it was like, no, when did you get diagnosed?
Yeah.
How did it happen? What is your medical history? Like, we're not gonna do that on this show. So yeah, I'm glad you were on. This was so much fun. Erin, any last words?
No, but thank you so much. I'm a big fan. I have to say, like, really fast. My niece is now 15, and when she was like 10, I heard your voice in the other room, and I was like, what? And my niece was watching your videos,
Oh.
and I said, I watch it too. And then yesterday, I said, guess what? You're going to be on our podcast. And then as a typical teenager, she said, okay.
Well, tell your niece we said thank you for being a fan, even as a 10-year-old. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's awesome. 10-year-old fans and a children's book and adult fans. Like you're changing generations. That's great. Thank you so much for being on the show, listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in this holiday season. Lots of great things to support. I hope you'll consider supporting Easter Seals. Erin, love you. Love hosting this show with you.
Same.
And we'll see you next time for another episode of Everything You Know About Disability is Wrong.
If you liked what you heard, go ahead and subscribe and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts.
Thank you to our listeners, and as always, thank you to Easter Seals for giving us the space and resources to share such authentic conversations from within the disability community to our listeners.
And we'll see you next time for another episode of Everything You Know About Disability is Wrong.
Everything you know about disability is wrong.
This is a podcast brought to you by Easter Seals.
You know, we actually work for Easter Seals, but maybe our listeners don't know what we do.
That's true. Easter Seals is leading the way to full access, equity, and inclusion for disabled people and their families.
And did you know we've been doing this for more than a century?
This includes helping disabled people find meaningful employment and addressing healthcare needs for all ages.
We're proud to serve communities across the country and ready for the next 100 years. For more, check out easterseals.com.